Hello, Amanda. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to chat with you. We met years ago at the National Family Caregiver Conference in Chicago.
Yes.
And at the time, I didn't know Chicago was going to be such an important place in my life, but my daughter is going to be moving to Chicago to
Oh my
start her
gosh.
nursing. Yeah,
That's
she's graduating from college this week. And we're empty nesters, but they've been in college.
I
And
love it.
so, yeah, we'll get to go back to Chicago. Whereabouts are you?
So I'm in Indianapolis.
Okay.
I'm in Indianapolis. I grew up here. I lived in Florida for a long time, and then I moved back here in 2016. And then I went to college in Illinois. So like a lot of my friends are still in Chicago. So kind of just bop
You know
around this
it.
little
Well,
Midwest area.
you're gonna be living in the Lincoln Park, like a nice area.
Oh,
It's very,
fun.
yes. The
Oh,
rent is high. She's got a
yes,
roommate, but
yes.
it's yes, we're very excited. So we'll be moving her in July.
Oh, so jealous.
I know. It's crazy. It goes fast, I will tell you. All right, Amanda, well, we like to pull from the Happy Healthy Caregiver jar to kick things off.
Can't
And so I
wait.
have a quote to see what you think about this. And it looks like from those of you watching the video, I can see you're a quote person because you
I
have
am.
one behind you. Like I love the little nuggets that they get. So it says, individually, we are one drop, but together we are an ocean.
I love that.
Individually, we are one drop, but together we are an ocean. What are your thoughts on that?
I love that. I actually always say that many hands make for a light load is like kind of my caregiving philosophy whenever I'm kind of talking to a caregiver and we're trying to offer help or find out how we could support them. There's that immediate, like, I don't need to. And it's like, you're not asking anyone to do anything major, but all of us together doing something small can really lift you up. So no, I think that there is great power in when we can kind of come together in that way and help someone.
And I'm hoping as caregivers and advocates that working in this community that when we come together and really advocate for one another, share each other's content, amplify what we're
Hmm.
doing, we're going to make a bigger splash in this ocean if we
Absolutely.
do that. So,
Yes,
mindset of
absolutely.
abundance. There's 53
Yes.
million caregivers, and not one of us can help them all. So,
No.
love it. Well, I introduced you a little bit in the introduction, but I would love to, in your own words, Amanda, just share a summary of your caregiving story with us.
Yeah, I always I go back to this story with like the first time I ever heard the word caregiver. My husband was 28 years old when he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and it was 2 days before his birthday and 2 months before our wedding. And so we were really just like kids, and we hadn't faced a lot of life yet. And we were in that hospital room, and this nurse came in and she said, are you his caregiver? And I was like, and I like felt like I like looked around like looking for an old lady. Like, no, like what are you talking about? Like I'm his fiance. I'm like way too hot to be a caregiver. Like, are you
Yes.
kidding me? Like it did not define. I was very thrown off by it. And so there was a long time where like I really hated that word. And I still sometimes struggle with it because it's just such a meh, it doesn't give us the zest that we really are. But as time went on and I kind of found my purpose in what it meant to care for someone that you love and what it means to put someone's every need like ahead of your own and thinking ahead on about all the things that they can't. Caregiving kind of has like become like this power word now. Like it's always like aligned with like being a badass to me because you really are doing it all. And for me, I was so young. We had no friends who had gone through cancer, who had gone through any of this yet. It was like for old people. And so I cared for my husband Joe, and we went through surgeries. We went through chemotherapy. We eventually had a baby. And during all this, because we felt so like just isolated, like it was like our friends were either like partying in Chicago and doing all that, or they were getting married and traveling to their honeymoons, and we were stuck in a freaking chemotherapy like floor. And so we started a blog called Cocktails and Chemo. And there is where we wrote everything about my life as a caregiver and his life as a young cancer patient. And so when you ask my story of caregiving, it really all it kind of became documented in that place of cocktails and chemo. And we would just share, and we wrote. And then eventually we got this like little following of people who were saying like what you were saying, like me too, like I'm by myself here, but together I feel connected. And when my husband, he passed away in 2014. And when he died, I had this feeling of like, well, what the hell do I do now? Like my caregiving is over, but that was the only place I really knew what I was supposed to be doing. Like when you're sitting next to
Yeah.
that person
Your
in that
whole
hospital bed,
marriage. Your
your
whole
whole, my
marriage.
whole marriage, my whole motherhood. Um, and it was like, I had no purpose all of a sudden, which is a weird thing. Cause when you're doing it, you're like, God, I hate this. I hate caregiving. I hate all this. And then it's like taken from you. And I felt very like my hands didn't know what to do with themselves. And so I turned the blog from this kind of, internet world of our story to a nonprofit. And I knew I wanted to help other caregivers. And so our whole mission has been caring for caregivers since the nonprofit started, and just kind of giving a voice to the invisible caregiver.
I think that's so amazing.
Thank you.
Writing has been very therapeutic for me in my caregiving journey too. And so similar to what you, Amanda, are doing. And, we've all kind of saw this need, and we've all in like little lighted moments throughout the US have kind of popped up to do,
Yeah.
to put our space in the world. And I love that it's, people have found their story through your story, and that it's, I love when you say like I get some notes for people before the podcast and you're like, I'm an open book, what do you want to know?
Uh-huh.
And so
Yeah.
basically the same, because I feel like when you are more transparent and vulnerable, you see yourself more clearly, and it makes your relationships richer and more meaningful, to kind of tear down some of those walls. You have, one of the tips that you share is to find a friend you can text in the middle of the night. And I got to think there's a story behind this.
Yeah, when we started blogging, the best thing that came to me were the relationships that I created from these complete strangers. I mean, and through the internet. And I got connected to this girl named Kristen, and she had lost her husband to colon cancer about a year before I was losing Joe. And she was my exact same age. She had two small children. And I had never met her, but I honestly can say she saved me during that time, because I had these friends and I had family, but like nobody could understand what I was feeling and my true fears. And I was in hospice texting her in the middle of the night, like, what is this going to look like? What is going to happen next? And she could walk me through. And I think about how painful that had to be for her to then walk through her own grief to help me. But she knew she had to, just like, kind of that feeling I have now, that I know I have to. Like, it'd be very easy to walk away and say, well, that was a phase of my life, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But you kind of can't. It's like you've seen too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding those people and those relationships that I could talk to about the really like raw things that were happening, it it really gave me a place in all of this. When you really do feel, I talk about feeling invisible a lot, but just that's how you feel. It's like no one of my friends saw me, but these strangers did. And then eventually I ended up meeting some of them in person, and it's like this instant moment where you're just like, oh my gosh, my person, like you
You're
have my
my
back this whole
tribe. Yeah,
time.
they're your people.
Yes.
I think
So you
that's
got to find
lovely.
somebody that you can just blast out rapid fire questions to in the middle of the
Mm-hmm.
night about what the hell's going on, or even being able to say like, God, my husband's annoying, and it's like and like, you can't say that to everybody. Like, they're
No.
like, oh, he's going through cancer and this, not like, yeah, he's still my husband. He's still a real pain.
Yes.
But you find your little group of people that you are safe in that spot. And so, yeah, I think it's very important.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't have this person, Amanda says, go out and find this person, or at least ask,
Yes.
can I send you a text in the middle of the night? I love it.
Support groups, like some of those support groups, and even like those online groups. Like I created a group called Young Cancer Wives when Joe was sick, and we were kind of on Facebook about that, and then it turned into Widows Don't Wear Black after he passed. And it would like be these little Facebook groups that it was just a place. And it was funny because the highest traffic numbers were always 2 a.m, like I can't sleep and I've got this going on. So yes, the tribe is essential.
When you were grieving, and
Mhm.
sorry, it's
Oh,
it's sometimes I move on and it's
I
like,
know.
yeah, we just talk about it,
I'm
but
with you.
it sucks, um and the grief is because you don't wear black, potentially,
Mhm,
widows don't wear
mhm.
black.
Yeah.
It feels like the world is kind of like, move on, Amanda. Okay, move on. Like, what are your thoughts to people who are grieving right now, or who know that this season, this grief season, which never really ends because we love these people.
Yes. It's like it doesn't end. You know, I'm at 7 years. I said do the quick math in my head. I'm like, wait, 40, 50, yeah, 27
Same
years.
same year my dad died. So yes,
Yes.
7 years. Yes.
7 years. And so there's definitely moments where it's like it's so fresh again. Like there's something that can like a sense, a smell, a song, a memory, and you're like taken right back there. And it's like, whew, I need to sit down. And but I just think that grief is, but when I was in the heart of it in survival mode, like if you're going through that right now, I want you to know that there is there is light again. There is, you have to do the work, that time doesn't just heal you. And that was a big misconception I had because I thought just, well,
Yeah.
time's going to heal me. And for me, my daughter was 11 months old when her dad died. And so
Wow.
I didn't have time to grieve. And so I had very delayed grief. She was about 3.5, 4 when it really hit me like I'd
What
never
did that
moved.
look like?
I ended up in the hospital. I mean,
Oh
I
wow.
ended up just like I just had such bad stomach pains, and it was like anxiety was crippling to me. I didn't know
Mm.
what I wanted to do. I couldn't make decisions. I just felt, and I'll be honest, because anybody who, would have read our blog or fallen in here, I was very authentic. And I did share so much of that, but some of it's just there's no way anybody could ever really know what you're going through until
Well, and
um
there is a protective layer because,
there
like,
is.
if you start kind of peeling things back, you'll just unravel, and
You
it's
can't
very
stop.
scary to go too in because you're living it,
Yes.
and you have to get through the day and the weeks
Yes.
and the months. Yes,
It's like once you open that floodgate, you're not sure you'll be able to come back, which I think is always
yes.
a scary thing too. But I had to go to counseling, and like really solid counseling, like weekly counseling for a
Mm.
while. And I had to really dive into like some of my health and feel like I was getting active again. I had to stop and think about like simple things like, what do I even want from my life? Because whenever anybody would say, like, well, what do you want? It was like, I want Joe. I want
Mm.
Joe. So sorry about all of you. None of this sounds good. Don't want to be here. Every family holiday, I hate all of you. Every like I just, because that's what I wanted. And I had to kind of like rewrite my story. But that's not as easy as just saying like be happy. Like I remember I needed to like very tangible things. And so I cut out a picture of a farmhouse table, and I like put it on this paper of kind of like, dream board, vision board type of thing. And I was like, next year, Thanksgiving, like I want to have enough friends that I could have a Friendsgiving, because I was like,
Mm.
I'd lost all my friends. We lived in Florida, and then I had to move back to Indiana after Joe died because I had a baby. I needed help. My parents were here. And so I felt very like I have no friends. I have no, I was really rebuilding when you think about it, every aspect.
Everything.
And so then when I remember when I started making these neighborhood friends and I started connecting with these other moms, and I was really putting myself out there, like, okay, I've got to do this. But again, it was work. And that's why I say, like, you've got to do the work. It was like, hi, hello, new friend, please hang out with me. Like, want to come over and have wine on my front porch? Please, please, please. Until I got invited to do a Friendsgiving the next year. And I remember just feeling like almost like I had manifested this, like, yes. And it was such a small win. But for me, in the midst of grief, God, did I need it? I just needed to find a village of people, a community of friends, because I lost my spouse, I lost my partner. I was so lonely. And so
Mm.
just addressing all of that. So like I think when you're really in the thick of grief, just breaking it down to even think about what could be a tiny win for you.
Mm.
That was huge for me.
I think that's great. I love that you manifested it.
Mhm.
We when you said that you sought counseling, did you look for somebody that was specific in counseling for widows or caregivers or?
I did. I had another widow friend that I had lunch with, and I did one of those. And anybody who's in grief will know this. It's like where you sit at lunch and then like all of a sudden like your tears are just like flowing nonstop. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I did not even know this was
Like
gonna
you
happen. And
barely
here I
have to
am.
scratch the
Like,
surface.
yes.
Yes.
I was like, I can't
Yeah.
stop. And it's just coming. And so she was like, I have this counselor that's really helped me. So I went with him. And you know what the greatest thing was? He was like this like a little old quirky man. But I loved it because he would look at me and he'd be like, Amanda, you've been through something really hard. And this is really hard. And
Yeah.
I just felt like it was like someone allowing me to be like, yeah, because I
Mm,
was so like, no one's going to see me as a victim. Nobody's going to see me. I mean, the day out, because you're in this caregiving mode, you're just, you're fight, 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 fight. You're going to fight for their life. You're going to fight for their care. And then they die. And then I'm like, well, no one's going to see me cry. Mm-mm. And so I remember putting lipstick on before I went to the bank to get his
mm,
bank account set up for our daughters, like for the obituary and stuff. And I was like, nope, I'm here. And I just had this like warrior mentality for so long that eventually it's like I had to let go of that shield I'd put around myself to get
mm.
real with what was going on underneath. And I see people still that have not done that work or not allowed themselves to be vulnerable like that. And it's like there's a bitterness to them that,
Mm.
and like an anger, and you get why. I mean, life's
Yeah, it
freaking
needed a
hard.
place to go. It's
Mhm.
it's just kind of on
Protective.
a hamster wheel inside your
Yep.
body. And
Yep.
being, task oriented is such a coping mechanism. I
It
think
is.
a lot of women in general, like we're all guilty of that. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
we'll just stay busy. We'll just keep doing it, and then we don't have to think about these things.
Yes,
Well, your story is very hopeful because I have also learned that you're engaged.
I am. I am. And that was very scary and crazy. And that took a whole nother round of counseling because it was like, you love someone so much and you care for them. And then you kind of take on your missions, life work. And truly what I do for helping caregivers is centered around honoring him in so many ways. And then it's like, well, can I allow myself to like feel happy again? Okay, this feels kind of scary and weird. And I have an 8-year-old daughter, so that's like a funny thing to feel like you're like choosing
Mm.
their father figure. Like that's a lot of pressure. Um, it's one thing when you like have a spouse and you have a baby together, it's like, okay, you're kind of in this together, but you're like choosing someone like, okay, you're gonna be good for this
You
role.
checking these
And
boxes. Thank
this
you.
poor guy, he's like, like it's a lot of pressure. I know it is. But yes, I am engaged, and it has been it is not like I think I don't know. There's a book called There Are No Happy Endings. And I hate that because like I do love a happy ending, but I think there's some realness to that. Like it isn't
It's
just like, whoop,
messy. Life is
yeah, I met someone
messy.
and no, it's perfect. But I feel very, very lucky. And I do feel like, as cliche as it sounds, like, Joe would be really happy. And like, people say, do you think he picked him for you? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know what he's doing up there in heaven, but I think he always wanted me to remarry. And he said that when he was sick. And I think about, he was 31 when he died. And I think about what that had to be like as a 31-year-old young man to look at me and be like, I want you to remarry. I want you to have more children, live your life. I want Mira to be, and the just that he took some kind of comfort in giving me
Mm.
that and what he gave me, because I never really have felt guilty ever because he gave me that. So,
Yeah, it was
talk about
mature of
caregiving.
him and
Yes.
to give you that permission. And then,
Yes.
of course, I think, from your caregiving support angle, it is a hopeful story, and it is
Mhm.
one that I think some people need to just can be like, oh, this is a big season, a big important part of my life. But life is long, and it's
Life is
got
long. Life is long. And you're right. It's a strange thing. And I really think when someone has been sick, you take on so much of that responsibility in their care and in their honor and in I remember when Joe was in hospice, like I wouldn't let nurses come in the room unless I knew that nurse and was ready, because I didn't want anyone to see him looking like that, because like I wanted anyone to remember him as handsome and robust as he was. Like you're so protective of them, every aspect of it. And so then you lose them and it's like, well, wait a minute, it's my job now to
mm,
carry on their legacy, and it's my job. And some of that caregiving, like guilt and stress, kind of it stays with you. There's a part of you that almost thrives on it because it's become your identity. And that's amazing in so many ways, but can be kind of scary too, because in all that I had to really stop and be like, but who's Amanda? Like, what is Amanda even like anymore?
what were
I
some of the
rem-
things that you found out that you liked
I
that
mean,
when
I
you did
remember when I
that
went to
work?
go fill out a online dating thing and it was like hobbies, and I was like, keeping my child alive, like drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just felt like I was like, I have no hobbies. I don't even know what I like anymore. And I had to like really kind of think about what what makes me me? What makes me tick? What did I used to like before Joe got sick? Like, what were some of our dreams? Like, can I even go back there? And so, um, that's the work. It's hard work, to really redefine yourself. And I think because being a caregiver, it defines you. It
Mm.
really does. And in beautiful ways. There's such ways that I'm like an old woman sometimes in the way I think about the world and I think about time, and I feel thankful for that. And then there's other ways where, it can make you kind of scared to love anything again because
Yes.
you can lose it.
Yes. So well said. Well said. When you transitioned your business or your blog to a business, a nonprofit, the Cocktails and Caregivers, was there a
Mhm.
part of you that's like, no, I'm done with this caregiving stuff. Like I'm just gonna go get a different job completely, or did it was
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it is always, I mean, there's definitely times where I'm like, when it's hard, like doing your taxes and figuring out like business things. And I'm like, I didn't even ask to be a business owner. Like, how am I here? But I have this amazing team. And that has been huge, is finding like a really solid like volunteer team and board, and just hearing the responses to the caregivers when we're like sending them, we send care packages, we send grants. We do a lot of like really tangible things that are immediately helping because I know that's what they need.
grants for
Um,
respite?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Grants for respite, or what are the
We do,
grants
yeah.
for?
So we do grants for childcare. And so it is like for if you have a family member that is sick, and let's say you have a baby and you don't really like number one, you need to be able to be at chemo and you can't be home with the baby. So we will pay for a month or 2 months of your child's daycare. We will pay for like in-home nanny. And if you don't feel comfortable having them in a daycare, if you need to take a couple months off of work because you have a child who's sick, we'll pay
It's
for some of
huge.
that. So it's very much about giving you kind of that emergency fund. You've got something massive going on right now.
Mm,
Let's give you, so we give grants of $2,000 to help kind of them buffer some of that. And that's something I'm very passionate about because I lived it. I mean, when Joe was sick, I didn't feel like I could take my baby to daycare and then her bring something home and
yeah,
get him sick.
true.
And so I had a group of friends that kind of like rallied together to get us, help us pay for a nanny. And it was, I mean, it was so thankful because even like maybe he didn't have an appointment on a Wednesday. Like I could run an errand by myself and just like have a minute. And I needed that. Like I desperately needed that. So our grants are very much focused on that whole many hands make for a light load. Like let us lift
Yes.
one thing off of you for a little while.
Tell us more about your nonprofit. Like what else do you all do?
Yeah, so we started out, we were Cocktails and Chemo for years and years, just the exact name of the blog. And we started off helping only cancer caregivers. And then we do different events, and we do these events where we take over a salon and we call it like the Badass Mama Blowout Party or the Stay Glam Party. And we'll
Love
invite
it.
in a ton of caregivers, and we're just like, this day's for you. And we get their hair done, gift bags. And it's incredible to see how these women look when they walk in the door. They're kind of like timid. You can tell some of them have not gotten their hair done in a very long time. They have not taken a moment for themselves. And then seeing them when they leave, when we've like given them a mimosa and we've let them have someone touch them and, love on them, they look completely different. And it's that whole concept of you cannot give from an empty cup. Like, let us fill this cup. Let us overflow this cup
Mm-hmm.
today. And so, as we were doing these events, very focused on that, we'd hear from, well, they don't have cancer. So I feel kind of weird. I'm like, no, 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 all caregivers are welcome. Yeah, bring her too. And then I just got like, eek, I think we got to change our name, which was hard emotionally because like Joe and I had started this together. But our name is now Cocktails and Caregivers because the cocktails kind of symbolize well, in the beginning it was because we went from martini dates to chemo dates, but now it's that let us buy you a drink. Let us have you sit down and do something that's fun and special. And
Yep.
so Cocktails and Caregivers is kind of like support without the stigma. We're not gonna make you sit in a circle and introduce yourself, or we're gonna really like love on you. I'll give you an opportunity to meet other caregivers like you, to form a connection if you want. If you don't, you don't have to. So our group has expanded a lot, and now we're helping moms who have children who have all different kinds of disabilities or need long-term care. Wives, we're having daughters and sons who are caring for their parents, their siblings, because while all their stories are different, they can kind of unite over that same feeling of managing it all. And so we do a series of things. We do events, we send care packages, um, which are kind of made up of different things. They could be Starbucks gift cards, they can be self-care items. It all just depends on what we're packing up for that month. And then we do the grants, which we call our tribe grants, because it's kind of that you're part of our tribe now. We have online support groups that we follow up with. And our goal is that every person who gets a care package, they get nominated by somebody. And so it's kind of that friend, who's like, oh, I don't know what to do. My friend Jenny's going through all this. And it's like, when you don't know what to do, Cocktails and Caregivers does. Let us take that off of you. And so they get the care package. And then within 30 days, we have a member of our team call them, check in, see if there's anything else they need. And it's funny because we never get anybody to ask for anything. And it's like, listen, we're here. Like, what else can we do? But you know how caregivers are. We got it. We got it.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to kind of give them examples of some other ways we could help. And then we have a whole process with the Our Tribe grant. And then we do some luncheons, which I'm now that COVID, it's like, oof, I can't wait to get more in-person events again. Yeah, our whole idea is just to find ways to fill the gaps
Yes.
for what a caregiver needs.
So do you have to be in the Indianapolis area to take
Nope, we're
advantage? Okay.
all across the country. We sent 35 care packages last month, and we had some go to like Wisconsin, one to uh, Seattle. We had a couple in Florida. So no, it's anywhere. And our goal is really that anybody who gets nominated on our website gets something from us. There's some months where we have big numbers. We're like, okay, everybody's getting a card and a gift card. We got to hurry, make sure we meet this need. And then there's some months where we have a little time to pack some more, but
Yeah.
it's more about that recognition more than anything. It's just that note saying like, we see you.
Yes, I was just going to say, we see you. Yes,
We see
because
you.
you're invisible to many, but
Yep,
not to us, for sure.
exactly.
I love that. Well, I will certainly link to that stuff in the show notes so that
Thank
people
you.
can do that.
Yeah.
So you had your dates, and that's how your name came, the cocktails in it. But I was wondering, if you were mixing a cocktail for caregivers, what ingredients must it have in it, and do you have a name for it?
Oh gosh, like a real, like when I go to the bar, like my real drink.
Like, if I'm just thinking, like, I don't know, caregiving, like, what would we
Uh,
put together?
I think if you were going to be making, I always give this example when caregivers are coming, because like when I was saying they're kind of nervous, I'm like, I want you to fill your cup so full, I want it to overflow. So like I would want this drink to just overflow with what fills you. That I would want it to be made up of all the things that you were before you heard the word caregiving, and all the things that you need to hear now. And it's like kind of just that I would want to fill your cup in a way that just lets you know, I see you and you've got this. And so maybe we could call it that, the, no longer invisible cocktail or
Yes,
something.
yes. Let's
Um,
let's simmer on that and think of
yeah,
something. Yes.
yeah.
Uh, that's so good. I love that. I just started thinking, like, what a great analogy for
Uh-huh.
like all the things that you need to
It's
to
true.
put in. I want to see my
True.
cup with, the different, the team of people, and
Yes,
the the different tactics and tools that we can have, and
absolutely.
picturing it in a martini glass is
I
a
like
lot,
that.
as a great visual.
I know.
So what did self-care look like for you when you were in the throes of it? Was there any of it, or
I don't think I did a great job in the beginning. I mean,
it's understandable, Amanda. No no guilt, just grace, but I'm
yeah.
just, yeah.
I had a baby. And so like I think any mom in those first couple years, you kind of lose yourself anyway.
It's kind of a
And
blur,
so
frankly.
yes, the best thing that I did was put her in some daycare a couple days a week. Even though I wasn't working, which was a whole other challenge, because I had left my job to care for my husband. And so, and I know several caregivers that find themselves in that same spot. And so I wasn't working. So I had a lot of guilt about putting her in daycare and paying for that. But I knew like I had to have some kind of break because I didn't have anybody that came home at 5 o'clock. Like my day never ended. And so just allowing myself that to have a couple days to catch up on figuring out how to pay bills, like do all the stuff that I had never
Yeah.
done because Joe did it. Um, and just that was huge self-care for me. I also took some trips that were like just with one friend, or kind of like I would travel by myself for like a day and then meet a friend. I love these ideas of these people that go like on these long trips by themselves to find themselves. Like I've never been that gutsy, but I've done like a day. And I
Yeah.
think it's amazing because when you have a minute to like quiet your mind and all the daily of life is removed, that is when I think you can really dive into some of those layers of grief. And, grief is there for people who are actively caregiving, because it's anticipatory grief. It's the grief of what your life was supposed to be. And now you're here. And so just taking those some kind of vacation away or moment
Hmm.
away, whether that's just taking a walk, um, that is when I can really visualize myself, and I can remember like those were moments of like, aha, like I need to be here in this space to like let myself feel
Yes.
all these things I don't want to.
I think it's great to have these dates with yourself. And,
Yeah.
I hadn't probably done that in a while either. I used to do it more when I traveled for work, and then I traveled for speaking in person coming back again, which was nice. And I was like, oh, I can have a date with myself again. I'd go sit at the bar, had a
Yeah.
nice meal, took a walk. But you
Yeah.
do, it calms your mind and you start thinking about things again. It's a great space. So what does self-care look like for you now?
Right now, I am relearning all of this. As I said, I'm engaged. We just moved in with a boy. So now I have a co-parent. Oh, I there's a boy here. It's very weird.
I hope he's putting the seat down because y'all are
Yes,
definitely not used
he's
to that.
I know. Well, Mira's always like, she cracks me up. She's always like, man, we gotta always have clothes on now. We got a boy that lives here. I'm like, I know, we do. And but to me, it's learning to lean on him and like let him help me. And I think that that's probably it all roots back to that caregiving thing. Like, I got it, I got it, I got it.
Yeah,
And
they can't
so
read your mind. You have to use your
yes,
words.
I have to let someone help me. And so I've been going to workout classes, like I schedule them and I go, and I make it a priority. It is on my list, and it makes me feel so good. It is not just the endorphins of the workout class, but that I'm like doing something that's just mine. And
Yeah, and
I'm
you have
very
friends
lucky.
there, and
Yeah,
yeah.
there's other people you can kind of say, hello. And I'm lucky I have an 8-year old now. Like she's, rather independent and some of those things but that is a huge self-care piece for me. And then just giving myself a chance to just be me and not lose track of who that person is in the throes of being an employee and a mom and a nonprofit worker and a friend and a sister and a daughter. It's like keeping track of like, yeah, but who's Amanda? What does she need? And not letting her just disappear again. Like I see pictures of me in those first years when Joe was diagnosed and after he died. And it's like I wasn't even there in so many ways, and of course, like I was going through trauma, but I don't want to lose her again. I want to make sure that she is nurtured in all the ways that she needs.
It's so well said. I mean, that's really what self-care is, right? It's just
It is.
it's a check-in and be like, what do I need today?
Mhm.
We're human.
Mhm.
Sometimes we take better care of our cars and our telephones than we
You
definitely
do.
do ourselves. I mean, I'm sure people are listening though in the financial part where the struggle that you were in, like what helped you then? Like, how did you do that?
Oof. It was really hard. I mean, my husband and I had owned a business together, and in the first like year, I was kind of told like, never mind, we're not paying you anymore. And oh, never mind, like, this you don't have a job. And it was coming at me fast and furious and very scary. And so I started picking up freelance work. And then I just kind of made myself it's crazy, but I dove into Cocktails and Chemo as a nonprofit, even though I wasn't, getting paid or anything, but I treated it like it was a real, like I got up and I went to the office and I was going to work on this. And I'm really glad I did that because it allowed me to get my brain working again. Um, I think anyone who's been a caregiver is caregiving could probably say, oh, we know what you're talking about.
I
Like
mean,
the
I get
brain.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
had no business starting a business while caregiving and raising
Yeah.
kids and working, but it was my outlet. It was
Yes.
yes.
Your brain gets kind of fuzzy, like mushy.
Mm.
And so that was really huge for me to help. And then through that, I actually kind of began networking and meeting these different people. And that's how I ended up in my job now is I met a woman at a luncheon who had actually read my blog before. And she was like, I'd love to kind of like lunch with you? And so we just did like some networking. And then eventually like, she had a position open up at her company and she reached out to me and said,
Hmm.
we'd love to interview you, bring you in. And so I think that when you're feeling lost, like obviously I feel like I sound like a little privileged even saying this, but it's like keep at it. Like it's like I keep at something that's fueling your fire because it's going to
Hmm.
open doors for you. And
Yeah,
I
otherwise you
felt
keep sinking.
yes. And I just
And
would
it's
have
like,
kept
even if you're
thinking,
just like, you're
yep.
doing something
I
to take
started
action.
freelancing at random magazines and seeing where I could
So
write. And
writing was your
yes, I
thing.
wasn't making much, but it was like just
Yep.
getting me back awake into the world. And then, thank God for my parents who were constantly helping me with childcare and all of that. And so, it really has been a lot of people who helped me even while I was kicking and screaming that I didn't want their help. So I'm very, very
It made you
lucky.
healthy. Yes, that's so good. What is
Yes.
your day job? What do you do?
I run a marketing department for a
Ah,
furniture company. Yeah. So we do a lot of interior design work for
so
companies all over
fun.
Indianapolis. Yeah.
That's
I
wonderful.
really love it.
Well, you're a busy lady for sure. Are you ready, Amanda, for the lightning round? These are just prompts from the Daily Self Care Journal.
I'm
No,
ready.
no wrong answers, no
I can't wait.
judgment, just fun. Okay. What is your favorite time of day and why?
Ooh, I love the morning when no one is awake yet and I can have a cup of coffee all by myself. It's just like the moment of peace before the crazy
The
starts.
calm before the storm. I know, I
Mhm.
get that. Um, where would you like to visit in your dream tonight?
Oh, in my dream. Oh, that's gonna make me a little bit sad. I still feel like Joe visits me in my dreams sometimes, and I sometimes I have this vision of him doing art up in heaven, and I always like kind of
Hmm.
have this like little dream. I'd love to stop in and check some of that out.
Did he do art here on
He
Earth?
did. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
And
so cool.
I went to a psychic one time or whatever you call them, a medium, and they were like, "Oh yeah, but he feels like his art in heaven is way better than it was here." And I always like held on to that because I was like, that's kind of a cool thing they said. But I would love to check some of that out if I had a dream
I
travel
love it.
opportunity.
Yes, let's go to Joe's art gallery in
Right? It'd
heaven
be
and check it
amazing.
out. That'd be amazing. Um, let's see. Do you feel like you are enough?
Whew, that's a hard one, right? I feel like I am enough. I always want to be better for my daughter. And so sometimes I need to learn to like cut myself a little slack there because I think I'm doing a fine job, but I always want to be better. And so I'm teaching myself that I am enough. I think that there's
Yes.
always I'm a high what do you call those people? High achieving person. I get my kicks off that, like I want to go, go, go. And sometimes it's like, no, we're doing a good job. So
You have
yes,
high
I do.
expectations of yourself.
High expectations. Yes.
I'm the same way, and it's like
Mhm.
nobody else is measuring me on
Yes.
these like things that I'm measuring myself against.
Yes.
So I
Let it
hear
be.
you. Um, if well, and I don't know if you'll feel like you can be honest with this, but because
Okay.
you're working right now, but maybe if you could make a living doing anything, what would you do?
Ooh, anything. I sing with my dad's band sometimes, and I've always thought it would be really fun to just like be able to sing, and make enough money doing it. But not like I don't want
Yes.
to like I don't really want to do it, all the hard work of like all the gigs and all the carrying things. But like, if I could just sing here and there
If
and
you could show
make it
up,
work, it makes me I always find a lot of joy when I get a chance to kind of do some of that with them.
what kind of music do they play?
He's in a cover band, but I mean, I've been singing with him, for fun since I was like in second grade. And whenever there's like a gig and I can hop up there for a
So
bit, it's always
fun.
this quick moment of just a rush that would be pretty cool.
Are you a karaoke singer? Do you like?
Oh yeah, I
Oh
love a good
yeah.
karaoke. Uh-huh.
Yes, same with my sisters. Do you have a song? Like you're like
Oh
this is
yeah,
what's your song?
Bobby McGee, Janis Joplin. That's my jam.
Oh, that's not recorded anywhere, is it? No.
I'll find it for you. I'm sure we
Oh,
got it for
good.
you.
Yay. Oh, that's awesome. I love that song. Reminds me of
Yes.
who was it? Crystal, somebody sung it in American Idol. Like I think I
Oh
have.
yes,
You
yes.
remember?
Yes,
Yes.
I do. I do. It's my dad and I would send it back and forth. So yeah.
That's lovely. I think that's great. What a way to bring joy into the world is through singing. So, I don't. This will probably air after our next virtual cafe is, which is a support I do every
Uh-huh.
other month that infuses infuses some fun. And I wrote down the glam party because that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But the next one is a sing along. So we're going to be
Oh, I
singing
love
on,
that.
yes, on our May virtual cafe. The last one we did some dancing, and I thought, I don't know if caregivers are going to be into this, but they were into it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, they can turn their screens off or their mics
See?
off or whatever,
Yep.
but yes, I'm with you that like support doesn't have to be, you know, it can be very therapeutic, but it can also be fun. Like let's
Hmm.
just connect and share ideas and have a little bit of fun and take a break in our day. Amanda, you are like a soul from the. Maybe we'll get to meet someday in the
Yes.
again at another conference or something. But I
I
have
love
been
it.
so excited to just chat with you today, and I'm celebrating you. When is your wedding day?
Thank you. That's a great question. We don't know. I've been
Okay.
loving being engaged and I feel zero rush. It's like, you go through all these phases in life and I'm like, man, I waited a long time to feel happy again. I'm going to kind of just like let
Do
it
it.
ride. And
Do
so
it.
we're going to do it eventually, maybe this summer, but I
A
don't
few
want to
more
feel
engagement
stressed.
parties first. Why
Yeah,
not?
it's like, let's just have fun. We're enjoying it.
You have that glow of the bride,
Thank
bride to
you.
be, so it's
Thank
wonderful. Well,
you.
congratulations whenever that happens. I'm sure I'll see it online when that occurs, and then we will. How do people get in touch with you? That's
Yeah,
very
so
important. And is there anything else you want to
yeah,
share?
we're at cocktailsandcaregivers.org. So that we have a lot of resources there. If you can reach out to me at Amanda at cocktailsandcaregivers.org directly. And I think I would just want anyone to know about what we do, that, we're not curing anything. I wish we were. And helping someone is not that hard. It is just whenever you feel like you don't know what to do, just do something small. And as a caregiver, let somebody help you. Just let somebody help. And even if you feel like you're doing it for themselves, let them bring you over some dumb casserole, but take it, because that support and that love that they're showing, you deserve it, and you need it probably more than you even realize you do.
Well said. Ditto. Love it.
Mhm.
All right, Amanda, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
today.
you. Thanks for
Best to
having
you.
me.